1. Marilyn Monroe. Norma Jean Mortensen wasn't born into glamour. She was forged in the crucible of wartime America. Imagine this: a young woman, barely out of her teens, standing in the hum of a munitions factory during World War II. Her hands, stained with grease and soot, carefully sprayed fire retardant on airplane parts while America's sons fought overseas. She wasn't Marilyn Monroe yet, just another face in a sea of factory workers. The air smelled of metal and oil, the rhythmic clank of machinery drowning out dreams of fame. But fate had other plans. A military photographer documenting the war effort caught her in a candid moment, her natural beauty framed by industrial grit. That single photo changed everything. Soon, she found herself at the Blue Book modeling agency, where her brown curls turned platinum blonde, and Norma Jean vanished. Hollywood didn't just discover her, it reinvented her. She wasn't a factory girl anymore. She was a symbol of desire, a goddess of the silver screen. But behind the diamonds and red lips, the girl who once clocked in and out of a factory never truly disappeared. 2. Todd Browning. Before he directed Dracula and Freaks, Todd Browning didn't just observe sideshow performers. He was one of them. As a teenager, he did what most only dream of. He ran away to join the circus. Picture a lanky young boy in the dead of night, sneaking out of his house, his heart pounding with excitement and fear. The circus wasn't a playground. It was a world of illusion and darkness. He shoveled elephant dung, set up tents, and learned the brutal reality behind the painted smiles of sideshow acts. He saw the grotesque, the forgotten, the exploited. More importantly, he understood them. The freaks weren't monsters to him. They were human. And when Hollywood came knocking, Browning didn't bring fairy tales or romances. He brought horror. Freaks wasn't just a film. It was a reflection of the world he lived in. The man who once worked behind the scenes of a traveling circus had pulled back the curtain for the world to see. And it was terrifying. 3. Lucille Ball. Before I Love Lucy made her America's favorite redhead, Lucille Ball was just another struggling performer with a suitcase full of rejection letters. But before even that, she was a factory girl in upstate New York, folding napkins in a hat factory. It wasn't glamorous. The long hours, the suffocating smell of dye and fabric glue, the monotony of folding and stacking, it was enough to crush any dream. And for a while it did. Lucy gave up on Hollywood once, returning home after failing to land roles. But something in her refused to quit. She took up odd jobs, posing as a model for art students, dancing in chorus lines, doing whatever it took to survive. Every misstep, every rejection, shaped her comedic timing, her resilience. And when Hollywood finally gave her a second chance, she didn't just take it. She rewrote the rulebook. The woman who once folded napkins in a dusty factory would go on to fold the entire television industry into the palm of her hand. 4. Cary Grant. Before Cary Grant became the epitome of Hollywood charm, he was a street kid in Bristol, England, with a hunger for escape. But not through acting, through acrobatics. At just 14, young Archie Leach, his real name, made a daring choice. He joined a traveling vaudeville troupe. No safety nets, no second chances, just gravity and determination. Picture him, a wiry teenager balancing on stilts, swinging from trapezes, and learning comedic timing not from scripts, but from falling and getting back up. The stage became his home, and America became his dream. He stowed away on a ship bound for New York, wide-eyed and desperate. Vaudeville gigs kept him afloat, but Hollywood was still a fantasy. Until his polished British accent and effortless charm caught the right eyes. That acrobat from the streets of Bristol became Cary Grant, the suave, debonair, leading man. But beneath the tuxedos and witty one-liners, the kid who once risked his neck for a laugh never truly disappeared. He didn't just act, he performed with the precision of a man who had once lived on the edge of a tightrope. 5. Joan Crawford. Before she was the queen of MGM, Joan Crawford was just a girl named Lucille LeSueur, scrubbing floors in a boarding school laundry room. Imagine her, a teenager with raw hands, submerged in soapy water, the scent of detergent clinging to her skin as she dreamed of something, anything, bigger than this. She had no safety net, no wealthy parents, just an unshakable belief that she wasn't meant for ordinary life. Dancing became her escape. She practiced relentlessly, sneaking into theaters, copying the movements of professionals. It paid off. She landed a job as a chorus girl. The transition to Hollywood wasn't immediate. She was a dime-a-dozen dancer, another hopeful face. But she fought. She carved out a space for herself, changing her name, her voice, even her past. Joan Crawford wasn't just an actress. She was a reinvention. The girl who once scrubbed other people's clothes became a woman who refused to be anything less than a legend. 6. Clark Gable before Gone with the Wind. Before he became the king of Hollywood, Clark Gable was knee-deep in grease, working in the oil fields of Oklahoma. The sun beat down, his hands were cracked and calloused, and the air reeked of gasoline. It was brutal, back-breaking labor, a far cry from red carpets and movie premieres. But Gable wasn't built for ordinary work. He wanted something bigger. A chance encounter with a traveling theater troupe changed everything. He left the oil fields behind, trading steel-toed boots for stage makeup. It wasn't easy. He was too tall, too rough around the edges, his ears stuck out too much. But he worked. He honed his voice, softened his mannerisms, and sculpted himself into the ultimate leading man. By the time Hollywood finally took notice, he wasn't just another actor. He was Clark Gable. The rugged oil driller had transformed into the most desirable man in cinema. But deep down, he never forgot the sweat and grit that built him. 7. Marlene Dietrich before Marlene Dietrich became Hollywood's most enigmatic femme fatale. She was a young girl in Germany, trying and failing to fit into the life planned for her. Her mother, a strict disciplinarian, insisted she learn the violin. Hours of practice left her fingers aching. But no matter how much she played, she lacked the spark of a true virtuoso. It wasn't her passion. She wanted something grander, something that didn't confine her to sheet music. When she was finally told she'd never make it as a professional musician, she rebelled. She traded the violin for the stage, sneaking into cabarets, performing in risque Berlin revues, and embracing the bohemian lifestyle. She reinvented herself, sharpening her allure like a weapon. Hollywood came calling, but she was no ordinary actress. She was Marlene Dietrich, an icon forged in the underground nightlife of pre-war Berlin. She didn't just act, she mesmerized. The girl who once followed the notes on a page became a woman who wrote her own rules. 8. Humphrey Bogart. Humphrey Bogart, the ultimate tough guy, the no-nonsense detective of Casablanca and the Maltese Falcon, wasn't always hard-boiled. In fact, he started out as a spoiled rich kid. Born into privilege, young Bogart attended elite private schools, prepped for a life of comfort. But he had no patience for it. Rebellion coursed through him. When World War I broke out, he defied his family's expectations and enlisted in the Navy. The clean-cut, upper-class boy was thrown into a world of grease, gunpowder, and survival. He served as a deckhand, witnessing the brutal realities of war. Some say it was in the Navy that he got his signature lip scar, the one that would become his trademark. After the war, he wandered, trying and failing at different jobs, before stumbling into theater. He wasn't polished. He wasn't conventional. But he was real. That rawness became his greatest strength. The spoiled boy had been hardened by war, and it made him Humphrey Bogart, Hollywood's ultimate tough guy, with a past as layered as his characters. 9. Greta Garbo. Before she became an elusive Hollywood legend, Greta Garbo was just another struggling teenager in Stockholm, Sweden. She worked in a department store, folding clothes for wealthy customers, her fingers cold from the drafty warehouse. But Garbo wasn't content blending into the background. She had a face that demanded attention, and she knew it. Opportunity came in an unlikely form. She was asked to model hats for store advertisements. It was a small break, but one that set everything in motion. Soon, she was acting in Swedish silent films, her haunting beauty impossible to ignore. When Hollywood beckoned, she transformed completely. She changed her voice, her demeanor, even her presence. She mastered the art of mystique, speaking little and allowing her eyes to tell stories words never could. The department store clerk became a goddess of the silver screen, her past fading into legend, just like she did when she famously disappeared from Hollywood at the peak of her fame. 10. James Cagney. James Cagney, Hollywood's original gangster, didn't start out in the underworld. He started out as a lowly office boy. Growing up in a tough Irish neighborhood in New York, young Cagney took any job he could to survive. Office work was dull, but the streets outside were alive with energy. He didn't dream of Hollywood. He dreamed of escaping poverty. Dancing became his way out. He taught himself watching performers in vaudeville houses, mimicking their steps. He took on small roles, learning the art of stage presence. But the real Cagney, the fire, the sharpness, the defiance, came from his childhood scrapping on the streets. By the time Hollywood came calling, he wasn't just another actor. He was James Cagney, the man who would redefine the gangster archetype. The office boy had fought his way up, bringing real grit to the silver screen. And no matter how many tough guys he played, he never lost his dancer's footwork. 11. Buster Keaton. Buster Keaton wasn't made for a normal life. Literally, before he could even walk, he was already falling. Born into a family of vaudeville performers, little Keaton was thrown, yes, thrown, onto stage sets by his father as part of their act. The audience gasped, but baby Buster never cried. He learned how to land, how to roll with the impact. By the time he was a child, he could take a fall better than any stuntman. This wasn't just a performance, it was survival. His father was a hard drinker, and life on the road was tough. But Keaton thrived, absorbing every lesson in physical comedy like second nature. Silent films were his destiny. His stone-faced expression and jaw-dropping stunts made him a legend. But beneath the laughter was a boy who had spent his childhood literally being thrown around for entertainment. The world didn't give him safety, so he turned danger into an art form. And Hollywood never forgot him. 12. Mae West. Before Mae West shocked audiences with her sharp wit and sultry swagger, she was just another teenage girl working in a candy factory. The work was monotonous, assembling chocolates, wrapping sweets, the air thick with the scent of sugar. But Mae wasn't the kind of girl who faded into the background. Even then, she had an attitude. She'd crack jokes, flirt shamelessly, and make every dull shift feel like a performance. She knew she was destined for something big, and she wasn't about to wait for it. She took to the stage, writing her own risque plays, pushing boundaries before Hollywood even knew her name. Censorship boards tried to shut her down, but Mae West thrived on controversy. The Candy Factory girl didn't just make it to Hollywood, she took over. She wasn't just an actress, she was a revolution. And the world would never see a woman like her again.